Greetings everyone, I'm Claudia and I will be introducing this chant for today's talk. Shiva, the auspicious, the beneficent, bringer of prosperity and joy, the destroyer, the great Lord, who holds the river Ganga in the locks of his hair, who conquers the heart of Parvati, the highest Lord of the universe. Shiva Shiva Shambho Shankara Hara 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 Mahadevara Shiva Shiva Shambho Shankara Hara 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 Mahadevara Ganga Chitadara Gari Manohara Patipuri Parameshwara Ganga Chitadara Gari Manohara Patipuri Parameshwara Shiva Shiva Shambho Shankara Hara 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 Mahadevara Shiva Shiva Shambho Shankara Hara 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 Mahadevara Ganga Jatadara Gari Manohara Patipuri Parameshwara Ganga Jatadara Gari Manohara Patipuri Parameshwara Shiva Shiva Shambho Shankara Hara 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 Mahadevara.
Om Namaha Shivaya.
Om Namaha Shivaya.
So that introduces the subject. Today we are in India. The composite man called the poet. And so following with that, the composite god called Shiva. And that gives us a way to start this. And I'm going to start right off with a Mary Oliver poem that she has actually titled To Shiva. And while I'm reading this, if you could look right over here at Shiva and this doe. Shiva, pretend you are with me as the doe in her summer red coat tiptoes down through the pines and enters the pasture. She neither hurries nor hesitates. She knows exactly how carefully it must be done. Shiva, I know the odds. If the fawn is where she left it, the world in that moment goes on being created. And if the fawn has vanished, it is the destroyer's hour. Lord of life and death, I just want you to stand here for a moment, not as God, but as mortal being, to see for yourself how the doe carefully vanishes into the grass. And when she emerges, how the heart leaps joyfully, as if the world steps out beside her. That little dancer still licking milk from its lip. So that just about, brings Shiva into being here. Again, Shiva is very composite. The name Shiva is really a Sanskrit name for beneficent, auspicious. Sort of the native or folk name would be, Balaji, would be very similar. Ji, means adorable, like that. Shiva is really indigenous. What Coyote is to Native America, Shiva is to India. With Shiva, however, going back thousands and thousands of years, Shiva is part and parcel so much of India that the culture, spirituality, religiosity, language, all that has continued. Where for Coyote, Coyote is only this presence. The domain of Coyote, native California, was utterly destroyed by genocide in the 19th century. And now, at this moment, there is here, speaking to you, Coyote. So we have a lot of the Shiva here to look at. And here we can, well, let me go up here. This is my drawing. My drawing to say that this is Shiva. And then from that, can you come over here? I've showed this, before. This is an image, a carving in a steatite seal. There are several of these, and that this is considered the proto-Shiva. So it's interesting because these objects have only come to light very recently with archaeology, and yet the culture that this belongs to has still continued. It's my conjecture, while those cities that are now buried in Pakistan, no one knows what happened to the people. The cities are just abandoned and buried. The people in southern India, called the Tamil or Telugu, have descended from those people. So that's where the culture of Shiva continues very, very strongly. So that's very much to see that. And then can you go over here to this shield here. I love this. Here you see Shiva. Shiva is Sri Mahasukha. Sukhavati is the female organ, and this shows that Shiva is that which he dwells in the female, the woman's generative organ, as the seed to parthenogenesis. He's also called that hermaphrodite, and Aphrodite, and those kind of things have mixed gender, we would say there. So you can see him looking out there from that very deep place. And if we go over here to the next shield, would seem very appropriate at this time. And when I'm going to read, some parts of this, this is a cradle song called, Palana in Maharashtra, and it's describing the 12 days after birth leading to the child's birthing ceremony. So I'm going to read, some of the verses here. On the first day in the king's palace, a child as vigorous as a lion is born. It is the first incarnation of the Lord Shiva as a child. Jubala, Jubala, Jubala. On the second day we go to the temple. The child is decorated in many ways. Beautiful maidens are cleaning it. Jubala, Jubala, Jubala. On the fifth day, ceremonies by the priest are done. The goddess comes and promises him success. Jubala, Jubala, Jubala. On the sixth day, earrings are put in his ears, and the mark of saffron and sandalwood are put on his forehead. Jubala, Jubala, Jubala. On the ninth day, he wears a chain with 9 jewels and pearls. The radiance of his beauty is everywhere. Jubala, Jubala, Jubala. On the 11th day, he sits on an elephant, while 5 armed men stand guard. Jubala, Jubala. And on the 12th day, the name-giving ceremony is held with great celebration, and the child is named Shiva, Shivaji, Jai Jai, Shivaji, Jubala, Jubala. So we can have that entering, as that. And we can come down here. Well, let's look over here at this batik. Focus on that batik over there. someone actually personally brought me this from Bodh in India. It's a wonderful batik. And here we see Shiva. He is drinking, the elixir. And very mainly, you see his attributes here. In the song that Claudia just sang, you can see there up on the top, the Ganga, right here. And the Ganga is the river that's flowing out. In some versions, the water's coming from the sky, and he catches it in the locks of his hair. So that's who she is. She is the Ganga here. And then we see here, always with Shiva, are the serpents. The serpents are definitely show his relation to everywhere in the ancient world. The serpent is the image or attribute of the goddess of the Earth Mother. So we can see that. And then here, this is another one of the symbols that always accompanies him. It's called the Trisula. The Trisula, and it is these 1, 2, 3. This would stand for Icha Sakti, meaning desire and willpower, which is the goad, to the whole thing. The second is the Kriya Sakti, and that is action. And the third one was Vijnana Sakti, and that's knowledge. And here the staff is Samaya, integrity. Without integrity, you cannot accomplish anything. And the integrity is what unifies these three. This is the goad, the prompt and the motive to the action and the knowledge that comes from it. So that is very much a part of Shiva. And here, this swirling up in a zigzag manner is Nashte. Nashte is a symbol in this depiction of a Parasakti, of the ultimate reality, the innermost reality that is inside everything in ourselves. So a wonderful, wonderful batik for that. And over here is a murti of Shiva. And you can see, again, his has all the serpents. His posture here is the Daka Shinamurti, meaning as teacher. He is the silent teacher. And in some statues, or call them, of him with this pose, he will also have on his finger the doe, kind of leaping off of his finger as a part of him. Today is National Wild Animal Day. And so that fits in with this because he is also called Pashupati. And in these ancient depictions of him, there are other ones surrounded by creatures, animals, wild creatures. Obviously a tiger is wild. And here he also sits on the skin of a tiger. You can see the image there and all of that. So very fitting. Not only is he like saying that, the Lord for the animals, but of all creatures and of people, he takes care of people. He takes care of people who might be a little slow, a little infirm. It's a very caring, we'll say, a kind of shepherd. So for that wild animal day for today, like this. The other thing that goes along with him here is this white bull called Nandi. Nandi basically means the joyful. It's surmised, however, given all of the things that are going on here with this of Shiva, is that there's an earlier Nandini. Nandini is actually a translation from the cow as her. A lot has gone on when you have the areas that have come into India, we think from the northwest, and they have brought a male dominance. They have brought their culture that really extols the male gods, and how that has affected everything. Shiva is so endemic, so much in the soul and spirit and everything of India. They couldn't really rub him out. They couldn't kill everybody like they did here in California. so they sort of incorporated it, and you'll come across it all the time. The three gods are Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And Shiva is always listed there as the destroyer. There's something not quite understood in putting that arrangement together. So there's a kind of a masculinization going on, and there's a kind of objectification going on, because here we're talking about Shiva like he is somebody, but he's really an unmanifest reality. In a Coyote story, they're out there in Northern California, where all the animal spirits, all gather together at the bear dance. I mean, everybody is there. And so they're in the roundhouse. And suddenly, Coyote jumps out on the floor in front of them. And they all say, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm Coyote, and I created you." So that's kind of what we have. And here in the ancient Indian story, if you can go over here to this figure, this is a figure as a head of Parvati. So Parvati is, in the Indian culture, put together with him, like, colloquial saying, the wife of Shiva. This head here is 1,000 years old. It's from Orissa. And what she is in the story I just told, she's telling the gods, she's revealing to the gods that Shiva is the reality behind them all there. And she also, her name actually means, the goddess of the mountain. And very much Shiva is a part of the mountain. There's a great white mountain, Kalisa, that is mainly his mountain. So these are, kind of mountain deities like that. And so she kind of figures, as the active Sakti of him. I'll say he is latent or unmanifest. She is what brings him out. She's his active Sakti, you put it all that way. So this is a very ancient head. And to go along with the femaleness of her, I put this antique symbol of a woman's comb that would be in a young woman's initiation into womanhood, whatever they might call it. Canalda is what they call it in Navajo. So I put that there to go with her. And back to, again, the bull Nandi, who is always figured, and all of these things have their own culture. There's people, innumerable people, forever how long, that focus on any one of these items and make that their personal or even a collective culture. And so Nandi is one of those things here. The next thing that we're going to talk about, something that so totally accompanies this culture we're referring to as Shiva, is something that is called lingam. Lingam. If you look down here at this item, it's kind of hard to tell because it has so many items upon it. But that's what this is. This is a lingam, and I kind of turn it around. You're focused on it. You'll see all the heads of Shiva and serpents on it, and it says divine suppliers. This item is by far the most exceedingly numerous religious object in India, and for eons. In the excavations of the ancient cities of the Indus Valley, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, I saw a photo that they're presenting as quite prominent, uncovering one of these, standing in the ruins of that city. And so lingam is what the average thing is called. And if you can go down here to this here, you can see pretty primarily what we mean by this. This is a elliptical stone, standing on a base. Now it's come to be called, the lingam and the yoni. And this mistakenly has been interpreted as that this is a phallus and that this is a vulva. That's somebody's idea, and the English usage of the name lingam seems to lend to it, but that isn't what it is or what it means. I even have an article here, to say that the word linga refers to symbol or depiction. You could say mark, sign, or identity. And it is derived from a combination of two words, Layithal and Gimbithal in Tamil. Again, Tamil is the language in southern India. It is not an Aryan language. And also that Layam and Kimba are in the Sanskrit. We're using the word Sanskrit, really, which was a grammarian's term for the Prakriti. That is the Aryan language of northern India, like that. And the words that are being used and put together in this first, means dissolution. So that's where you're getting that Shiva as the destroyer. Taken together, the way the words have been put together, it means the occurrence of dissolution and evolution. And then the yoni, that's being interpreted as vulva, really means, a source, coming from a source, and added to it the word lika in Sanskrit means to sculpt, to shape something. So basically that's what we're talking about here. I mean, being a little bit wordy to explain this very pervasive symbol in India. They come from very little ones to giant ones in temples, and they come in all kinds of materials. But basically, it's this. It's a stone, on a base. And its meaning, like the unmanifest. Here, I'm making correlations with Native America. In Native America, it's Inyan. Inyan Wasolahe. You've heard Standing Rock. You heard there a couple of years ago, the Standing Rock people standing up to the pipeline. Standing Rock is the same meaning. Actually, Inyan Wasishu means the spiritual property that manifests itself or symbolizes itself in the rock. So it's very, very similar, very much the same. Again, the evolutions and depths of evolution in the metaphysics or philosophies in India have all been cut down in Native America by the invaders who have no tolerance at all for any of the knowledge, intellect, or philosophies of Native America. So that's why we don't know very much. But there are vestiges, and one of them is in the Lakota in Inyan Wasolahe, very similar to this. The Tamil pronunciation for lingam I like better is Ilinga, Ilinga. And with that, let's go right up here to this. This is called the Chanti Ilinga, and it means the breast, lingam. And so in this case, the body of the breast is that she is the ground, and she is the dancing woman in the ground, and this is her breast here. So they put grass around it like that. And here, these are betel leaves, and this is part of when you want to make an offering, what you call a worship or a puja, they call it. Putting this kind of leaf on here and pouring water on it is the way of venerating the Chanti Ilinga. So you can see how beautiful that is. So I have an array here of other lingas. Let me go down here to this one here. This is a stone, a natural stone. It's called Banalinga. And these stones are found in a river, the Narmada River. And they are as tiny as this one right here. This one I just picked out, nice shape. And some of them are really very big. And so it's really mysterious how this one river produces these stones. There are other rivers who produce other kinds of stones. And these stones, like the Indian here in Native America, are also something that is very much a part of the worship of deities and that sort of thing. Some of them, there are masks that you can put on the stone, or even over the stone, masks that are made to cover the stone, and you're worshiping Shiva, you know, through the mask into the stone. Some vestige of this has continued in the ceremonies of the Navajo, just to mention that, like that. Other items that I have here, let me take one away. There's other versions of this item, the linga. Here would be a pretty standard one with the Om symbol on it. There are these here, these, we'll say people use them at homes, can be so tiny, it's unbelievable how small the sculptors that make these are, can make them very, very tiny. Here is a small one, it's pretty standard looking. And here is another one over here that features both the serpent and the Trisula. So all of that, and again, to turn this around so you can see the full complement. There are similar ones in India, also sculpted out of stone. All these, like this one, has their own particular name. Again, all of this is for people who, in various ways, they have the temples where there are priests, as we would call them, that for 24 hours a day they're pouring liquid, you know, over the stone and chanting ongoingly, like that. So there's even one, I've seen a picture of, a huge one made out of ice. And in Hawaii, the Shiva consciousness is, you know, expanding globally, even in Spain. There are Shiva temples in Spain, of all things. And in Hawaii. In Hawaii, I think, what is it, maybe the island of Kauai, there's a really major Shiva complex, temple with, you know, a huge linga in it. So, again, this is all for people who care about addressing the divine through worship. We understand that, you know. In Mexico, you're going to find people worshiping the crucifix and other kinds of things like that. So it's along those lines. But also the culture of Shiva, some of that culture does not really engage in this kind of worship. It's far more intellectual. And we should say very succinctly, basically and throughout the culture we're referring to here, we can call it spirituality, we can call it religion, is self-realization. The self that's realized is Shiva. Shiva is my self that I realize. And that is the basis of all that exists. So we can say that that's self-realization, and there are many ways to that self-realization. We can think of it as very individual, or we can join together with others to bring that realization about. Another part of northern India seems to be much more in the contemplative, and I should mention the Buddha, who was a product of northern India. He also was of the Shiva clan. The Saka clan were Shivite, like that. So one can see in Buddha, in what we'll call his teachings, you can certainly see the Shiva culture in it. However, people have, you know, somehow kind of dissected, I guess, you know, the particulars of some of the Buddha's teachings, as what they refer to them, as if they did not derive from this indigenous Shiva culture. Again, the Shiva culture is India, through and through and through and through. One of the things in southern India that's very much a part of this culture is dance. Now, I've seen old Hindu movies, as they are. In one Hindu movie, there's Parvati, you know, as a woman like that, and she has a rock she has set up, and she's praying to that rock to call Shiva. Anbe Shiva Mayam, Anbe Shiva Mayam, Anbe Shiva Mayam. She is calling Shiva by the weight of that rock, Inyan or Ilinga, like that. Another one was the movie about Rama. Rama is an epic, like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, like that. And what he's doing, he's pursuing his wife Sita, who was kidnapped by Ravan, who resides in Sri Lanka. So Rama and his company have made it down to the shore of whatever that strait is to get across to the island of Sri Lanka, like that. So that's the event that's all going on there. So he prays to Shiva. He prays to Shiva. And there they show it in the movie, the wonderful, this big stone lingam, you know, you have an image of what it is. And inside that, Shiva's dancing. That's Shiva's self-revealing dance. They really show him dancing in that. So now we know, you know, what does mean by this lingam, this ilinga? You know, who is he that is in her? There he is. He is in her. And that whole motive, that whole desire that brings about this action and the knowledge that we are learning from it. So with the dance, we're going to go over to this little figure here. Now this is very miniature. In southern India, the empire of the past called the Chola Empire, they have wonderful, wonderful bronze sculptures of life size. And this is one of the most characteristic of Nataraj. Nataraj, he's dancing, and he's, you know, bringing all of these things together. And we'll have, I put a head up here like that to encompass this whole part here. So the dance is so endemic of this. I am a long-time student, as you can see, you know, of this culture, and the dance has been very much a part of me for that. And I have definitely carried out, you know, my self-revealing dance in performances with this consciousness in mind here. And so here, this is my drawing. This is my drawing that says dance. You can see how that is. And up here is your holy picture. These kind of pictures, holy pictures, are very respected, very regarded as a value in the Hindu community. So you can see all of his various attributes. So to kind of bring all this together, I have another Mary Oliver here, and to feel in all of this tone that it's all about self-realization, and all of the items, the symbols, all of these things that are very meaningful, that anybody, you could say, would find something, you know, to get on the track with, to home into, to find some way to this realization. And again, the realization of myself, who myself is what self-realization of Shiva is. So here, this poem by Mary Oliver, really, the sea of self-realization. Stroke by stroke, my body remembers that life and cries for the lost parts of itself. Fins, gills, opening like flowers into the flesh. My legs want to lock and become one muscle. I swear I know just what the little gray scales shingling the rest of me would feel like paradise. Sprawled in that mother lap, in that dream house of salt and exercise. What a spillage of nostalgia pleads from the very bones. How they long to give up the long trek inland, the brittle beauty of understanding, and dive and simply become again a flaming body of blind feeling, sleeking along in the luminous roughage of the sea's body. Vanished like victory inside that in-sucking genesis, that roaring flamboyance, that perfect beginning and conclusion of our own. So let my stars be the sun and the moon, Mars or Mercury or Jupiter. Let it be Venus or Saturn or the two snakes. All of the planets and stars are good for us. They all bring good luck to good swimmers. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Be Shiva Mayam. Om Hamah Shalpya.